thought provoking episode of Healthy Mind, Healthy Life. I'm your host Avik, and today we are going to look at something many of us I mean, might take for granted. Like, a very important thing is fitness. So, on the surface, fitness looks like an industry of motivation, discipline, and transformation. But underneath, it has a retention problem. People start strong and fall off. Gyms lose members as fast as they gain them, and trainers constantly battle burnout and churn. So here's the real question is, what does the struggle to keep people engaged in the fitness teach us about how we live, how we work, and how we build sustainable success in the business and in life, right? So, dear listeners, our guest today knows this terrain inside and out. Please welcome Mike Laird. So, welcome to the show, Mike.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Amazing. So, dear listeners, before we delve deep into the discussion, I'll quickly love to introduce it, Mike. So, Mike is no BS health and business coach, a lifelong athlete with a baseball background, and a true family man at heart. So, after leaving Australia with two suitcases and a dream of playing professional basketball, uh, I'm so sorry, professional baseball, Mike built a thriving career as a trainer, a director at one of the world's most prestigious fitness companies, and eventually a mentor for the personal trainers to build six figure businesses on their own terms. And his story took a dramatic turn, like when he faced a rare and life threatening cancer diagnosis. And yet, he came out the other side healthier, stronger, and more determined than ever. So, Mike's journey is not just about the fitness, but it's all about the resilience, leadership, and family, and learning like how to keep showing up even when the odds feel impossible. So, stay listeners, I'll not take much of your time. And Mike, it's really an honor to have you here today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Lovely. So, Mike, the fitness industry has one of the worst retention rates out there. According to you, why do you think that so many people fall off even when they start with the motivation and the good intentions?
Yeah, so I think it all comes down to us where we always try and do too much too fast. We all try and do things too
Yeah.
big too fast. And there's never really a chance to enter a process. There's never really a chance
Mhm.
to understand what it takes to change the human body. I see it every single day. People come into the gym and they want to hit the goal, as soon as possible. Well, the human body doesn't exactly work like that. And there are some steps that need to be taken in order to change. And I also see it on the trainer's side. The fitness industry is known for having a lot of, relatively high turnover when it comes to coaches. And it's the same thing. They want to build businesses too quick and they don't understand the processes and the systems that go into actually growing the business,
Mm.
having one-on-one relationships with people, how to develop those relationships over time and nurture, a lead book, if you will. There's a lot of different things at play, but I think, the message overall, I think it just comes down to people trying to do too much in such a short amount of time that it becomes demotivating. And, once that demotivation comes, then it's a matter of, well, do I just sit down and do nothing or do I get up and try again? Majority of the time, it's sit down and do nothing.
Mm. Exactly. And I'd say, uh, is it a problem of mindset of environment or the way the industry itself is structured?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest. I think, when mindset comes into play, I think majority of people, and this is just human beings in general, right? We sit there and we often wait for the motivation to happen before we take action, when in fact, action is going to cause motivation, right? And it's going to, improve motivation to want to continue to go out there and do things. The fitness industry, obviously, in itself is such a large and saturated industry that it doesn't help the cause either. I mean, what social media has done to the fitness industry, in my opinion, has done more harm than good. I think we see a lot of, what I guess we call them fitness influencers out there now, posting
Mm,
things day to day that don't make a lot of sense for 99% of the population, yet 99% of the population see those posts and say, well, this person said that I shouldn't do this and I shouldn't do this. And then we get paralysis by analysis and we sit around and, 6 months
mm,
from now, we're no better off than what we were before. So I think it's a little bit of both. I think there's a little bit of self sabotage in there, by ourselves as human beings in general.
mm.
But then the fitness industry and the way that things are, compounded doesn't help either.
Exactly, exactly true. So, I mean, that's really fascinating because it mirrors what happens in business and life. And we get excited at the start, but consistency is where things fall apart. It's not just about starting, but it's all about sustaining. Yeah.
Correct. Consistency is everything. I tell my clients this every single day that it doesn't matter
Mm,
what you do in the gym, what you do outside of the gym, as long as there's a certain level of consistency there, things will change.
mm. Exactly, exactly true. And also, like, I'd love to mention that you have helped dozens of trainers build six-figure businesses.
Yep.
Um, Retention doesn't just apply to clients. I mean, it applies to the trainers themselves as well. So, how do you keep professionals from burning out and quitting in an industry that's notorious for high turnover?
Yeah, so, that was one of the things that me in particular, I pride myself on the retention of my trainers, and I think what it comes down to is I really wanted to have an understanding of who they were as a person. I wasn't looking at them as a coach. I wasn't looking at them as how many sessions can we produce, how much income can we generate. That had nothing to do with it. I wanted to know about them. What were their goals? What were their aspirations? What did they want to accomplish with their career? This is not something for me to sit there and dictate. Here's what I need you to do now. It's what do you want to do? And then how can we create a program for you and program backwards to help you achieve those goals? I used to look at my trainers and say, this point that you're at right now in our facility is just a springboard to whatever is next. I think where corporate fitness goes wrong is there's this weird stigma of I just have to keep everybody here forever, right? Where I looked at it as I want to help develop the person, and
Mm,
help them springboard themselves to whatever is next in their path and their journey. And I think, when I looked at the end goal and programmed it backwards, that allowed me to really kind of dig into who they were. And I think, a lot of my trainers would come to me, not just with business issues, but things that may be going on in life, and that was a privilege for me to be able to help them through different things like that. But it all starts with developing connections with people and understanding the person that's underneath the trainer tag, and that's really kind of what allowed us to hold on to the majority of our trainers, and have such a low turnover rate in an industry that's notorious for high turnover. It's because I wanted to know who you were and what your goals were, and I'll help you work towards those. Um, Whereas, again, majority of the time we see you're a number. How can you produce more? And that was never our
mm,
our focus.
exactly. I agree. So, like, do you think that the most trainers fail because they underestimate the business side, or maybe because they lose touch with their deeper side? So, deeper why, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. I also think that there's a lack of development out there. I think a lot of trainers are just kind of thrown into the fire to see what would happen, and I don't think that's fair, to the individual, and I don't think that's fair to the company who's brought them on. Um, there's there's a stigma in the fitness industry of, oh, we get to wear shorts and t-shirts for a living, and that's all well and good.
Mm,
When in fact, that's just not it. It's just like anything else. I mean, if I went to med school to be a doctor, there's a learning process and there's a learning the systems. And, it's like if I was a, trainer on day one, I've got to learn how to program. I've got to learn how to deal with people. There's different pieces of the puzzle, that come with developing a business. That I just don't think is present, in corporate fitness. It just people are not given a chance to develop, and
mm,
and that leads to a lot of burnout because there's a lot of questions that are asked that are not being asked, that are not being answered, for the
mm,
trainer, or there's no help being given in certain areas. But as most people who have been in the industry at one time or another probably understand that, it is a hard grind right out of the gate to build a business. Same as building any type of business, but business, it's long hours, it's not a lot of income, and on top of that, if there's no development and there's no real path forward, it's a daunting task for a lot of trainers, and that's why that's why the industry sees such high turnover.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. So, like, I really love this distinction. Really, really, I love this distinction. So, it's not just about the grind of long hours, but it's the lack of alignment with the purpose. And again, the lessons scales, whether it's a fitness business or the personal growth as well. So,
Yep.
yeah. And um, and in those darkest moments, right? So, what kept you anchored? Like, was it faith, family, mindset, or something else?
Yeah, really the 2 goes to was, was faith and it was family.
Mhm.
For me, my faith and my family are the 2 most important things in my life. They're my 2 highest priorities. But just like anything, I mean, I've got 2 little kids and, when you're laying in a hospital bed and you see your 2 kids walk in and they've never seen dad this way, to see the look on their faces was a little daunting, but that's what kept me going. You're given a diagnosis of, you get the phone call that says you have cancer, the first thought is, well, am I going to be here for my next birthday? Am I going to be here for my kid's first day of school? Well, that quickly turns into, yes, you are, and you're going to beat it. It's just one of those things where it's, a combination of, my faith is going to help carry me through this, but my family is going to be with me, step by step as well. And through that whole process, they were the biggest blessing that I ever could have asked for.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. So, like, I mean, I'll definitely say that it strikes me that fitness gave you discipline, but family gave you the will to fight. Uh, that balance is something we often forget, that our health is not just physical, it's relational, it's emotional, and it's spiritual. So, uh, definitely, I agree on this. And also, like, if I say that you have worked in one of the world's most prestigious fitness companies and
Yep.
later build your own business. So, from your experience, what's the one thing the fitness industry constantly gets wrong when it comes to keeping people engaged long term? What do you have to say?
The fact that it's all or nothing. Right, the fitness industry is notorious for it's this way or it's no way. It's you need to have everything perfect or your body's not going to change. When in fact that's not true, and majority of studies and research that you can find show that that's not true. There's a balance with everything, right? I mean, I always kind of tell I tell my trainers this, and I tell my clients this is that we need to fit this program around your life, not your life into this program. And I think the fitness industry has a tendency to say, you need to fit your life into this program. And people have 1,000 different things going on outside of that program. And that's when we see people fall off. And so the fitness industry constantly tells us it's all or nothing, when in fact it's absolutely not. There's balance involved, and there's a heavy dose of balance involved.
Hmm, got it. Got it. So, um, and uh, how can a business leader in any industry learn from that mistake? What do you say?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I think as a business leader, it all comes down to understanding the people that you're working with, whether that be clients that I'm training on the floor day to day, or if that's trainers that I'm coaching and mentoring to help grow their own business. If I don't understand the person, I don't understand what are they looking for. I do, if I don't know how to communicate with different personality types, I never really, have an understanding of who they are, how they communicate, what are they looking to hear? What are they looking to see? And so, as a business leader, I think it all comes down to communication. It comes down to understanding personality types, and it comes down to understanding people. I think once you can get on the same page with somebody, and you can get on, the same wavelength as somebody, the doors open, and the communication flows effortlessly. And then I think you have people coming to you saying, "Okay, I need help with this. I need help with that." And I have the answer for you. And in turn, we see productivity, increase. Um, I was never one to sit and tell my trainers, I need you to be here for 15 hours a day, because I understand that there's balance involved with it. However, right? we did have expectations, and we did want the highest level of success for everybody, but that all came down to communication and to understanding them as a person first and foremost.
Got it. And you often also talk about building freedom for your clients, for trainers, and even for yourself as a father and the survivor. So, what does that freedom look like to you today after everything you have been through?
Yeah. So, um, I look at freedom a little bit different now than what I did, pre-diagnosis. For me,
Mhm.
freedom now is being able to get up, to see my family, to be able to move my body, to be able to walk around day to day knowing that I'm not laying in a hospital bed. It looks, um, my calendar is, yeah, I'm not as strict with it, if you will. Because I do understand that at one point I was incredibly strict with my calendar. And it was an all or nothing mentality with my business. And that's just not the case anymore. And what I've seen with that little mindset shift is it's
Mm,
created a level of freedom that's allowed me to be more present, not just with my family, but with my business
mm,
as well. I prioritize things, I create time where I need to create time. But I'm not going to continue to fill up every 5 seconds of my day, just because. And that's allowed me to breathe a little bit easier and have a certain level of appreciation for, what is happening around me day to day. Uh, there was a point there where I didn't know if I was going to make it, to next week. And so every time that
mm,
things get a little bit crazy, I have to settle myself and I have to go back to that thought. And that then pulls me out of that, might be a stressful situation, and like I said, allows me to become centered again, with who I am and what I'm doing.
mm, I agree. I agree. So, um, uh, if you could give one piece of advice to someone who is listening right now, whether they are struggling in the business, with their health, or just in life, then what would you tell them about building something that truly lasts?
That's a great question. There's a bunch of different advice,
Mm,
but if you're asking for one piece of advice, I would say that,
yeah.
you know, every human being is built for more. I tell my trainers this and I tell my coaches this, that if somebody is sitting there on the other end of the speaker and they're wondering what are they going to do, how are they going to make it next, I want them to understand that you are built for more and you're more resilient than you'll ever even imagine. I think when it comes to business, we just need to understand systems a little bit better. We just need to, you know consistency, right? Consistency is the name of the game, whether it's business, whether it's personal health, whether it's, finances, whatever it is, we're all built for more. And I think too often we try and look for the easy route. But again, business, you're built for more. Um, just stay consistent with your actions day to day, right? And those actions don't have to be perfect either. But I think stacking enough good days on top of one another is going to lead to tremendous success. And it may not be in the time frame that you want it to be. And like I say, never, it rarely is. Um, but just continue to stack days because there is more around the corner. And you may be right there. You just don't know it yet.
Very true. Very, very true. Lovely. So, I mean, that's the heart of it. And I would say, Mike, your story is one of the great growth and the gratitude. I would say, I mean, you have shown us that the fitness retention is more than just an industry challenge, but it's a mirror for how we approach our own lives and the businesses. So we don't just need the motivation at the start, but we need systems, purpose, and community to keep us going when the initial spark fades. So, for everyone listening, ask yourself that where in your life are you starting strong but struggling to sustain? And uh, what would you change if you build not just for excitement but for the endurance? So, Mike, if someone wants to connect with you, what would be the great medium to connect?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. So I've got two handles to my business. So the first one is at Access Performance TX. And the second handle is at CEO trainer underscore. You can find me on TikTok on both of those handles as well, at Access Performance TX and at CEO trainer underscore. And then you can go to my website if you want to see what some of my programs are about. That's going to be accessperform.com.
Lovely, lovely. So, dear listeners, what I'll do is I'll put all the links into the show notes for your easy reference. And until next time, keep your mind healthy, your life intentional, and your purpose alive. So, thank you so much.